Katana ZERO is a 2019 platform game created by the indie developer Justin Stander with ASCII Soft. Set in a dystopian metropolis, the neo-noir city of New Mecca, the storyline follows Subject Zero, a katana-wielding, bathrobe-wearing assassin with amnesia who can slow down time and predict the future. Zero unravels his past while completing assassination contracts given to him by a psychiatrist. The game features fast-paced, breakneck action, instant death combat and exceptional sound and graphic design backed up by an engaging plot. Gameplay consists of navigating between frames within levels, usually having to dispatch all enemies found within. Some levels put this concept on its head, however, and the game is very good at introducing new elements into the core gameplay loop after you've had enough time to consolidate. You're a street samurai ninja type, and as such we have a few different tools on our belt when traversing through the levels. The most obvious tool is our katana. With a simple left click we can dispatch enemies, deflect bullets and use momentum of our swings to aid movement. Alongside this we have the ability to slide through bullets, lasers and the ability to wall jump. With this supernatural dexterity comes the ability to slow down time. Now we have to be careful using this as we can only slow down a few seconds at a time before having a long cooldown, but this does allow us breathing room to dodge attacks and knock bullets back at ease, that you could do the latter without having to slow down time if you've got good reflexes. The cherry on the cake of our toolkit is that we can pick up environmental objects and throw them at range. These may vary from bottles and knives to more tactical choices such as smoke bombs and grenades. When all of these systems come together, we get to test them against a variety of enemies and scenarios, from street level grunts to tactically kitted out SWAT members, and even a few boss fights sprinkled within. The gameplay can be demanding at times, but it never loses its fun factor, even if certain stages do test your patience at times. It's rare you feel like you've had an unfair death. The gameplay is sexy, but the near perfect aesthetic drags it up to masterpiece level. The graphics are exceptionally well done, with both the art and the animation conveying so much in so few pixels. The characters are memorable in design, with everything from the set dressing to the background art fully engaging in the environmental storytelling. I think it's fair to compare the game to Hotline Miami when we look at art styles, but I feel like this game does it slightly better. The soundtrack is also well composed, from brooding, fast-paced or downright insane tracks when the levels require it. The soundtrack for each mission does fit the theme they're going for. To pull out some notable examples from the soundtrack, I'd say we need to look at the nightclub scene, the game's first stealth mission, and when a character's storming through a prison. The game consists of 11 different levels, and the story itself threads throughout. It can present slightly differently depending on the choices we make in game, whether that's through dialogue options, timings or how we choose to complete certain missions. I'll be covering the whole plot and giving some analysis, so expect spoilers from this point onwards. The game opens with a big 10 days remaining counter. 10 days remaining till what? We have to wait to find out as we're asked about men in masks and told to start from the beginning. The rest of the game will be Zero telling his story from his perspective. We dash across rooftops before picking up the phone. It turns out we're some form of mercenary. In this first mission we're tasked with freeing a captured scientist and leaving no witnesses. I'm going to let this next section play out now so you can see how Zero operates. He operates with brutal efficiency. Zero has the ability of precognition, meaning that each level we play out is Zero's vision of how he expects the scene to go. We get to see the results of this via security camera footage after we complete each frame. This does also mean that if we die during a mission, Zero just switches to another vision of his route. We're the perfect killing machine. With strength enough to kill goons in one swipe and agility fast enough to dodge lasers, we advance through the area with a brief introduction to slow-mo. We find our scientist tied up and bloody, and like the good Samaritan we are, we free him and begin to walk off. Before what seems to be a bomb collar sets off, killing the scientist. We can see the culprit, and it seems to be a man with blue hair who's seemingly set it off. Funnily enough, if we die at any point or have to reset this section and rescue the scientist again with Zero knowing of the bomb collar, it goes off immediately. Take from that what you will, but we will come back to that point later. We're told to go home and rest by our employers. They're pissed that the captive got killed. Zero lives in a run-down apartment, loud neighbours next door, and signs of an otaku bachelor flood his cramped apartment. The developers do a good job in getting you hooked by throwing a ton of questions at you in the first chapter. We want answers. Who are we? Who do we work for? And what's going on? We drink our herbal tea and go to sleep. Zero is a character plagued by nightmares of some dark past. With our clock going down to 9 days, we go to visit our psychiatrist, and he's very interested in our dreams. Throughout this whole sequence, we have the option to interrupt the man asking for medicine. It's clear whatever he injects us with is something either highly addictive, necessary, or both. Turns out our psychiatrist is also our handler, and that at least partially answers who we work for, as he hands us a dossier on our next target, Josh Rose. Josh Rose is a tech billionaire with secret involvement in the movement of post-war drugs and materials, so we at least know the events of the game follow some horrid war. Now we burn after reading and head to the Murdoa Hotel. A nice detail I find is that the O and W have burnt out on the sign, leaving it saying Murder Hotel. Our first obstacle is the hotel's receptionist. She asks us about our get-up. Turns out she's a weeb too. We could have been an asshole to her, but this first lap of the story is going to be all about being a good boy. We fight our way up through the hotel. The important additions here come in the form of men with pipes, and Zero finding throwable weapons. The men with pipes, if we lock weapons with them, we're stuck in a knockback animation, and so we can either hit them first or slide through and hit them from behind. That works as well. The throwables allow us to hit people at range or avoid getting knocked back by pipemen. We can even use the throwables to hit bullets mid-air. Now we dash through and encounter our mark, and it turns out he was expecting someone else trying to assassinate him. If we approach, he jumps off the ledge. Now high profile isn't what our employers would want. Zero thinks about jumping off after the man before seeing a version of the encounter where we throw something at him before he jumps. Now with a much lower profile and the wandering gaze of that saucy receptionist, we manage to sneak out front. What a woman. With our employers pleased, we head home to rest. A little urchin girl bumps into us outside our apartment and we choose to be nice to her. After all, we've got enough on our hands with the noisy neighbours. We drink our herbal tea and head to bed. Startled awake by our nightmare, we head to the psychiatrist again, more interested in answers this time than we were our medicine. We dreamt of a scientist being killed in front of us when we were a child. Our psychiatrist informs us as the player that Zero is a war veteran, discharged after some debilitating injury he suffers from. He has memory loss and a warped perception of time. We let him know about the neighbour girl before getting another dose, and with it another dossier, this time with explicit instructions not to speak to the target. Our target is one DJ Electrohead, involved in the trafficking of club drugs and originating from the 2nd District. A slightly meta point is that DJ Electrohead is credited for a few songs in the game's soundtrack, and I'd say some of the best ones, including the level music itself, making it somewhat diegetic throughout. The starting frame of the mission consists of sneaking through crowds of clubbers without alerting security, and it seems Zero took the Assassin's Creed route for blending in as he cut shapes with the crowd. The rest of the level proceeds without much of a hitch, though it does introduce advanced elements like cameras and turrets. Cameras will usually be linked to doors and will shut them upon seeing us. Turrets will shoot at us and ricochets won't damage them, so we have to get in close range. We use smoke to our advantage here to proceed through to the back of the club without getting full of bullet holes. We do get quite a satisfying encounter with some pipe wielders, where we get to spam throw a back room full of ranged weapons at them. Now as we approach our target, our psychiatrist calls again to reaffirm, under no circumstances should we speak to DJ Electrohead, and we'll heed his advice for now. After slaying the man, we can see Mr. Bluehair fleeing the club as we attempt to do the same. Something to bear in mind here is enemies can enter the frame as we progress through, as opposed to being static where they've spawned in place. With the job done, we head home to find the little girl, and she's certain we've kidnapped her Leviathan. Some sort of toy, though oddly her other toy is called Behemoth, for a bit of religious symbology. We have no choice but to let her run in as we search for her toy. We play a little game of hot and cold as we find it under our couch with no clue how it got there. She lets us keep the toy and we drink our chalky milk and head to sleep, the noisy neighbours again being a nuisance. Our nightmare comes back to us, however. We awake startled. Each rest results in the nightmares becoming slightly more clearer. With 7 days remaining, we head to our psychiatrist, no clearer on what the countdown is for, though we do find out the media has been referring to us as the Dragon. With instructions to lay low, we head out again with yet another dossier. The target is one Fa Yuan, a leaker of redacted substances and a political dissident, making this the third drug runner we're tasked with unaliving. We're tasked with breaking into a military prison and told collateral damage is unacceptable. It's meant to be an entire stealth mission. You'll find that throughout the game the missions have a nice balance of both what we're tasked to do and the tools we're given to accomplish said tasks. We dash through the shadows of a prison courtyard, avoiding searchlights as we sneak in. Though, as we enter, all isn't as it seems. We progress through the cells, and it's very clear someone has already beaten us to the punch. We eventually find Fa Yuan face down in his cell toilet. As we do, the police arrive calling out they know the Dragon's here and that they've come for us. Now the real mission begins. We have to escape from the prison. Though following the dossier, we're going to use stealth to avoid the guards. After all, we wouldn't want to upset our higher-ups any further. We could dive in and out of cells to accomplish this, and even use throwables to make noise and distract the guards. One nice attention to detail section is we can avoid one of the guards entirely by using CCTV cameras in an adjacent room to track them. Another important point to mention is that as we complete sections, the video replay we'd normally see is gone. Perhaps someone's messed with the camera tapes and gotten rid of them. We get out though, and our employers still aren't happy. As we return home, we encounter some of the rabble found in Section 3. A homeless war vet who's convinced we didn't serve for New Mecca, and in fact calls us a Cro-Mag fuck and tries to steal our service medal. We snatch it back and resist the urge to slice into him, returning back home to the little girl. This time to quiet hallways, as she hands us a videotape that a stranger left for us. We invite her in and press play. see Mr. Bluehair, and as things get too violent, we send the girl home before continuing to watch. It seems the noisy strangers get injected with a drug similar to our own, as Bluehair produces his own little snuff film. It's revealed that the strangers were our noisy neighbours, and that's why they're now gone, and for once we can sleep without the aid of our herbal tea. Six days remain as we head to our psychiatrist. This time the office is closed and so we go on our merry way. A limo pulls up to us, with our friend Mr. Bluehair having a little party. He's starstruck over us, or more, our aptitude for violence. Try to remain civil with the man despite him wanting us to engage with him in his fetish for murder. We even lend him our sword to cut up some unnamed substances. Though eventually we call the man out for what he really is. Fucking subhuman. He kicks us out of the limo, stealing our sword as we follow him to Studio 51. Dodging his attacks as we chase him into the place, having to dispatch goons in the entryway without any help from our katana. Studio 51 is one of the larger levels and involves us traversing multiple movie sets to gather key cards to follow Mr. Bluehair deeper into the complex. We can tackle these sets in any order, though I opt to go to Quiet Hills, the Silent Hill knockoff, and we make use of tactics from previous levels to advance. We even kill a Pyramid Head animatronic. I go for Space Uncertainty next, a riff on Space Oddity, as we dispatch goons and robots alike using Molotov cocktails and explosive barrels, something new to the levels. The final stage, Chapel of Doom, sees us doing our best Indiana Jones impression, escorting a minecart through the stage to get our final key card. It's definitely the most challenging of the sets, of us having to jump in and out of the cart multiple times and make use of timing and spatial awareness to advance. With our goal in sight, we barge in on Mr. Bluehair just as he calls him back up. The trick here is to dodge his attacks and ricochet back his bullets. We're wanting to hit him from behind 4 times or so. If we die enough, the mission will advance anyway, so don't get too stuck up if you get stuck here. Eventually the screen begins to glitch out as a female swordswoman arrives, dropping lotus petals behind her and complementing our Shinkage Ryu fighting style. Her name is Snow. She gives us a warning to go back and forget about Bluehair as the two disappear. We receive a text from our psychiatrist apologising for his absence, and our little friend knocks on the door. It must be Halloween, and she's got the best Zero costume in District 3. We rummage for our cupboards and find us some chocolate sticks. We receive no other visitors before hitting the hay. Our nightmare seems to be replaced by 2 masked men, comedy and tragedy. They've drugged our tea and given us a warning. In 3 days, a decision we will have to make: the golden mask of life or the silver mask of death. Whichever we choose will result in the other being taken away from us. We wake up, seemingly dreaming as we appear in our psychiatrist's office, another visual glitch. We hallucinate Mr. Bluehair after telling him of our nightmare, and things get stranger still. "28 years in that godforsaken jungle, killing soldiers wasn't so bad, I can hardly remember it. But burning those villages, watching those naked peasants cry, I see it every day. It's not PTSD, it's the drug. It's only been a week, but it feels like a year. When the drug runs out, time stops. Zero asks a favour of the player, but he doesn't get to get it out before the hallucinations get weirder still. We receive our dosage, remembering we'd missed a day's dose, and showing that the withdrawals for whatever we've been given are mind-bending and very lethal. As our vision said, time will stop if the drug runs out. We leave with another dossier. Our target is Al-Qasim, the founder and CEO of Neotech, a company involved in military R&D and seemingly bucking the trend for our previous targets being involved in drug running. Our location isn't made available, though it seems we're running through the rooftops of New Mecca. As the rooftops are quite open, we have to be aware of gunmen. We come across a skylight with our friend Mr. Bluehair underneath, and we dive down and chase after him. He pops out now and then as we advance through the mansion, though we do end up killing the lights, turning this into a half-stealth assassin section. The mission becomes more puzzle-like, with us having to strategise more heavily on who we take out and when. Though we do find a flamethrower, and that does help quite a lot. One of our predictions doesn't go as planned. We learn that the drug we're on is Kronos. It's responsible for our supernatural powers. We also learn that Mr. Bluehair's real name is V, and that we can use our prediction skills to learn information, a bit like Return by Death in RE0. We enrage V into killing Al-Qasim for us, and end up in a boss fight with his axe-wielding friend, Mr. Kissyface. You need to follow similar tactics with the fight against V before, where we were dodging and trying to hit Kissyface from behind. Of course, with infinite attempts, eventually, we see Snow and V and learn more about their motivations. Their boss has them looking to manufacture more Kronos. They refer to Zero as a null. By the colouring of the word, I'm torn between it being a real designation or a Lali Lule Low scenario like Metal Gear where the word's redacted and people can't say it. I think it is the real designation, but it did play on my mind a bit. We break out and startle V as we begin a motorbike chase segment. The controls are pretty much the same as the main gameplay loop, we just have to dodge oncoming traffic as well as bullets. Once we catch up to him, he hops into a helicopter and we engage in the second boss fight within the same chapter. Just dodge the rockets and knock back the shots at him. V drops some nuggets, including that he's experienced being shot by Null before, that he was hired as he had killed many before. Before he says too much, the real dragon rears their head. Our task is done, we head off. Our psychiatrist texts reveal the chaos and damage caused by our little mayhem spree is frowned upon by the higher ups. And we've also missed a day's appointment, so we must have been knocked out a lot longer than we thought. Arriving at a local bar, two war veterans talk. And we now know that the war ended 7 years ago, that the war took place on land and sea, and that the Cro-Mags won, not the denizens of New Mecca. Zero was on the losing side, which raises the question, what the hell did the Cro-Mags have to beat Kronos? We get shit-faced and head home, the little girl telling us to run from something, but we're too drunk to understand. The next morning, we let the girl in and she reveals her father is a drunk abuser. We let her stay at our place today, after all it's much safer for her, and if the masked men are to believe, time is nearly up. We head to our psychiatrist and get an absolute verbal hiding from him, withdrawal symptoms starting to set in. After we get our next dose, we reveal the dragon isn't us to our psychiatrist, and after some deliberation we reveal another dossier. Our higher ups are interested in this real dragon, and they're at a high profile casino in Chinatown. We head in and get to make fun use of our precognition at the roulette table. This gets us through to the VIP area after we just rinse them for all their chips. We cut to the dragon and a mysterious character talking about Kronos and their need for revenge. It seems the two were soldiers during the war and ended up taking Kronos there. This is reinforced when we fight the mysterious character and our precognition doesn't work as intended. They predict our actions and get away. We bag the CCTV tapes from the prison, as funny as they are to see here, and fight our way through Chinatown to get to the dragon. The new mechanics here involve guards that use shields, and we have to slide past them and hit them from behind. If we try and charge them from the front, they'll knock us over, and there's a high chance we'll get shot. We fight our way through back alleys and use police drones to our advantage as we tear through Sector 3's police force one bobby at a time. They don't make it easy for us either. Eventually we're surrounded. With our day 3 timer out, it becomes all too clear with the return of the masked men, we're faced with a choice. Gold Mask of Life or Silver Mask of Death. If we choose the Mask of Life, we receive the first ending for the game. We're gunned down, but presumably the little girl survives alongside the police present. If, however, we turn back the clock, donning the Silver Mask of Death, the masked men face the police and they all begin to die, bleeding from their faces. You may believe this to be another hallucination or a symptom of our withdrawals, that perhaps Zero did this himself, but just remember this point in the story. Like the scientists in chapter 1, we'll be revisiting it later on in this video. Our psychiatrist is outraged by our actions. We return home and the girl has cleaned our apartment. She's a good egg. We're determined to watch the prison tapes, though not with her here, as, you know, they're definitely not PG. Instead, we go with her and get a more suitable movie for us to watch from the local store. Hot chockey in hand, the film plays out. And when she's asleep, we begin our proper screening. The prison tapes show us exactly what went down right before we arrived at the prison on the mission to assassinate Fa Yuan. Turns out that the real dragon beat us there, and we get to play out the next section as them. Our suspicions are confirmed on their exposure to Kronos. Their kit differs from Zero slightly. Their right click, instead of using thrown weapons, is this big dashing lunge we can use to cut down swathes of enemies or dodge lasers. It has a bit of a learning curve, this whole section does, but we can see he's a much better swordsman than Zero is. On the video playback, there are even points where he moves faster than the camera can pick up. When he does reach Fa Yuan's cell, he reveals why he came. The dragon is after the names of those involved with Kronos. Apparently a group is trying to bring it back. We find out that Leon von Albensleben was the one who created Kronos, and is most likely the dragon's next target. His motivation isn't to bring Kronos back, but rather to kill all who used Kronos to turn them and their compatriots into living weapons during the war. As the mission closes, it's revealed 2 days remain. We head to the psychiatrist's office, but before entering we receive a phone call. Leon is our next target, and he can answer all of our questions. We head to a slaughterhouse in the 3rd district as we come face to face with Leon. Or should I say face to screen. The slaughterhouse is a testing ground for the Null project, the Kronos soldiers. We get introduced to a unique mechanic for this level. Leon's going to try and 360 no-scope us occasionally. We just need to avoid his crosshair as we advance. You don't have to avoid it in its entirety, it's every few seconds or so it will stop and it will take a shot. There's also a variety of machines we can use against our enemies in this level. We advance through as is typical for the level so far, and it feels like we're going for a Saw map. It's much larger than the previous levels. Once again, we come face to face with Leon. We get stuck in a gauntlet testing everything we've learnt across the game so far. Dodging traps, killing goons, avoiding lasers whilst being shot at, all with a goddamn conveyor belt throwing our movement off. When we get to the end, we find out there are different classifications of Null, alphas, betas and gammas. For the gauntlet, alphas had a 7% survival rate, betas a 13, and gammas, the ultimate weapon, 100% survival. Leon reveals that we are a gamma and that Kronos should have won the war, but the whole project was deemed a failure, that he must restart from the beginning as he destroys the Kronos stored there. On our final meeting with Leon, he tells us to go KYS as we enter a back room. It seems all of Leon's tapes were pre-recorded, and as we go to open a cryo chamber in the back, we see Leon's true form, and the price of experimenting with Kronos and time. We head home and our psychiatrist is pissed that we went AWOL. The girl has a surprise for us, however. The girl alludes that this is just Sector 3, not all of New Mecca, and we promised the girl would take us somewhere far away. Throwing away our service medal, we have the girl to remind us we're a good person and we don't need it anymore. It's almost like we're throwing away our trauma. We promise her that the men in masks won't get her, though I remember feeling a sinking feeling in my gut when I chose that option. Judgment Day is upon us. The girl wakes up. She's made us breakfast, or at least tried to. We head to our psychiatrist and he chastises us for slipping our leash. We bring up the Null project and he gets a bit sweaty. We were placed into the Gamma project as a child, given Kronos from a young age and turned into a god on the battlefield. As with Judgment, there is Revelations and we find out all our missions were to remove any record of Kronos from the world. Allegedly there's enough left for our continued survival, but I don't believe this guy as far as I could throw him. We leave with one final dossier. This time there's no specific target, it's just to eliminate any and all sensitive material currently stored in Al Qasim's bunker. We head to the bunker, and on the reception for the building is the weeb from the Murdona Hotel. She recognises us, and I'm glad for it. Of course, the path of anime is one for us to walk alone. We're not just a Gamma, we're a Sigma, and we head straight into the bunker. The bunker part 1 is a test of your reflexes. Elevators lower you down to new corridors, and what's on the other side will probably take you by surprise as we go floor by floor. It feels like a boss rush despite it not being a boss rush. I hope that makes sense as the clip plays out. The game makes sure to test you here with enemy placement and puzzle logic for some of the traps. You have to be on your A game without getting greedy as you advance. As we open the lower elevator, a man in a bomb vest ambushes us, and we see a bit more of our nightmare as we're unconscious. The masked men both revel as we head deeper into the bunker and get ready for the most challenging section of the game so far, the bunker part 2. It's an absolute sprawl and it tests you. The first frame is massive and it just gets worse the deeper we go. There's a funny interaction where we can get a gun, though we throw it instead of shooting it, and it really made me laugh. The new mechanics introduce a men-on-mounted guns that operate similarly to the turrets, with a higher fire rate, and remote explosives we can throw onto goons and use their pathing against them. After fighting through the lowest areas, eventually we encounter a familiar face. The Null from earlier, this time with backup. We need to avoid the attacks of her and her backup before she blows up the floor and we enter phase 2. She recognises we're a Gamma, just like 15 she says, the true alias of the blonde dragon we saw before. She thinks we're here for the last dregs of Kronos remaining in the bunker. When we say we're not, she makes it abundantly clear that we both face the prospect of withdrawals and eternal death if we both live. So we're forced to fight each other no matter what dialogue options we pick. There's just not enough Kronos to go around and nobody left alive now to replicate it. Phase 2 is much harder as far as the fight goes, and if we die she taunts us. Avoid her attacks and eventually we'll prevail. She has lasers, automatic weapons, the works. But we're a Gamma and so she has no chance of success. After opening the vault, the withdrawals kick in. We're faced with ending the kid from our nightmares, and no matter how much we try not to, the dialogue will eventually fill the screen, reminding us of what we did during the war. Before withdrawals reach us, we're back in the psychiatrist's office, and he's freaking out. He knew our dreams were real, and Zero doesn't appreciate that. After juicing up on what I imagine is the last bit of Kronos left, taking the keys out of the man's pocket, we see one last dossier. One for Zero should he ever find out the nature of his mission. We return home. Our house has been broken into, our neighbour's gone. And the landlady assuring us that there was never a girl who lived here. There's no children in Sector 3, it's not safe for them. And we rush away to find out exactly where the girl's gone, as we see our nightmare play out in stunning clarity. The kid wasn't Zero. Zero was the soldier who came in and shot the scientist. His memory was just knackered by the war. We reach the end of the game and the credits help us answer some questions. Snow reports V's death to her superiors, who say with a null alive they're going to have to wage war on the government. And if the government control the null, then we know who's been giving our missions out to Zero. We see 15 planning his next moves with V in a side room, though no clarity on his motivations. Worst of all, we see the masked men again, and the girl with them. Whatever plans they have are going to be answered in the upcoming DLC, hopefully. With our good boy run over, we're left with some loose ends. Loose ends that can only be answered if Zero takes a different approach. Let's pretend we've taken Kronos, and we can take it back. If we go back and take every opportunity to be a dick to our psychiatrist, we can get some more answers. That includes the following. Mission 1, we need to hang up multiple times during the phone call. The one right at the intro. Answer with hello after we've hung up enough times and then complete the mission. That'll piss him off. When we get to Club Neon, we want to talk to DJ Electrohead. And in fact, when the psychiatrist rings us, we want to hang up on him too. He tells us about Kronos many chapters before we'd find out if we were being a good boy. V shoots him for some reason. It's unclear why, but perhaps it's because he's saying too much about the drug. After knowing about Kronos by talking to DJ Electrohead, we tell our psychiatrist, I talked to Electrohead, and then we refuse to take the Kronos and leave. This obviously exacerbates our withdrawals, but it's necessary for pissing him off. For the prison, this time our dossier is given to us by the masked men, as our withdrawals make us a bit more unhinged. For the prison section, we want to kill every enemy present. We can't leave anyone alive, and we're going against our direct instructions by doing this. Then for style points, when we get round to the Chinatown mission, when we're in with our psychiatrist and we get the dossier for the dragon, we need to tell our psychiatrist to fuck off. With this route taken, when we visit our psychiatrist after the bunker, things play out differently. Kronos wasn't the only weapon the government developed. The psychiatrist is a secret final boss of the game, and he has 3 distinct phases, as whatever pharmaceutical weapon he's taken has boosted his mental powers. Phase 1 involves the hands we need to parry away. Phase 2, the energy balls we need to swap back at him. Phase 3, the eyes. Have fun here, it's a nightmare. And then phase 4. Oh no. Dodge everything and hit him when he appears. I mean dodge everything. And with that done, you'll see him dispatched. The keys we take from him we can use to access a bit of an Easter egg room where we can change out weapons for different effects. I'm going to let them play out in the background here. It's believed the DLC will be accessed here too when it's out. And now we're going to dive into a bit of speculation. This is the chapter where we're going to try to tie together some of these threads, but take it with a pinch of salt. So the scientist in the beginning, dying in the 2 different ways depending on if we die or not, could be chalked up to V being on Kronos. He has got access to the drug and he gives it to our neighbours, and he's killed several Null in the past. His line on the bridge referencing being shot 7 times could be taken that he used precognition 7 times, or it could just be coincidental, and he actually got shot 7 times and survived. If 50 Cent can do it, so can he. The masked men, are they real? We don't know for sure, though they do display similar powers to the psychiatrist after he takes his experimental drug. They have those head-blowing, psychery abilities that we can see the psychiatrist did. And we see this when we don the silver mask. They reference drugging our tea, which if they're in our head, why would they need to? They steal the girl away, and I presume she's not real either, had she not received the tape from V. Though V never acknowledges her, and the landlady doesn't either, though psychic powers and that. the jury's out on the girl whether she's real or not, though I believe the masked men to be real. And their interest in Zero probably comes from him being a Gamma. Perhaps the masked men, or soldiers like them, were the Cro-Mag's secret weapon against the Null Project. Who knows? It would make sense as Zero was discharged with a head injury. That would either be caused by psychic head trauma or someone evading his precog. Again, the jury's out. Hopefully the DLC dives into the war, whether it's through flashbacks or something similar, while we tie up the remaining characters' plots. I think it's worth noting that it'd be good to see 15's motivations too. I imagine 15's going to go after the government, and maybe Zero will join him? Who knows? In conclusion, Katana ZERO is an excellent time waster with a brilliant story and overall art design. If you add in the fact the game has a secret hard mode option for subsequent runs, you've got double the content you thought you had. And this hard mode adds different enemy placements, unique enemy types in some cases. It's quite fun. And with an active speedrunning community, it's clear the game has carved out its niche. If you're in Britbong, the game's currently retailing $12.79 on Steam, and with a DLC looming in the coming months, honestly, it's $12.79 but you'd pay double for it. It's really excellent. I love the movement, the gameplay, and the plot as a whole, and the fact an indie developer had such attention to detail, especially when it comes to the dialogue trees and bits like that. It shows it's a real passion project. I'd say straight 10, W's in the chat, over and out, Smooth Brains.